What's going on, guys? My name is Max Novak. I'm a digital artist and content creator. I run a YouTube channel where I teach creative tools. I've edited music videos for platinum recording artists, and more recently, I've also been using ComfyUI professionally on film projects, including work on the Wizard of Oz production for the Las Vegas Sphere. Today, I want to share with you a guide for running AI locally on your RTX GPU using ComfyUI. Now, when I first saw ComfyUI, I'll be honest, I thought it looked insanely intimidating. It looks like somebody threw spaghetti at a circuit board. But once I actually started to use it, I realized this tool is incredibly useful. So here's some of the reasons why you should even care about ComfyUI as a digital artist. First, everything runs locally on your PC. No subscriptions, no cloud fees, no waiting in queues. When you're iterating on concepts or storyboarding, being able to generate on your own hardware at your own pace without burning those credits, that is huge. Second, you have complete control over your workflow. Unlike these black box AI apps where you type in a prompt and hope, ComfyUI lets you see exactly what's happening at every single step. You can customize it, swap models, experiment, and actually understand how it works so you can plug it into whatever you're already doing. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 practical use cases: 1, controlled image generation for storyboarding and prototyping concepts; 2, quick texture prototyping for background 3D props; and 3, video generation for previs and concepting. Now, last thing before we get started, ComfyUI, like I mentioned, is running locally, so you will need a decent GPU. I'm running an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5090 in my studio. ComfyUI leverages CUDA acceleration on RTX GPUs for fast inference, so you're generating super fast rather than waiting around forever. All right, so let's get into it. Go to the link in the description to find the ComfyUI GitHub, and you can download the portable standalone version. There is also a desktop version that you can download if you'd like. That's available on the ComfyUI website, and again, I'll link that down below. But I prefer the portable version just for file management. Go ahead and extract that onto your PC. Once you have done all of that, we're going to open up the file structure here, and I'm going to double click on the run NVIDIA GPU.bat file to actually start ComfyUI. You'll see a command prompt open up. Everything will start to initialize, and once it's finished, the GUI will open up on your web browser. So if you're new to Comfy, this is a node-based interface. If you've used Blender's shader editor or Nuke or any node system, this will feel familiar. If not, here's the concept. Nodes are like Lego blocks. Each one will do a specific thing. You connect them together to build a complete workflow. Instead of building something from scratch, we're going to keep it easy and start with one of the default template workflows, which you can find in Comfy. Just go over here on the left to this templates section, and I'm going to load in this Flux 2 image template. Flux 2 is an image generation model. You can do text image generation from scratch just with a prompt, but you can also do image to image generation where you use a reference image and build a really customizable generation pipeline. So a lot of the times the workflow will have a note like this, which nicely breaks it down for you. It's going to give you links to exactly what you need and where exactly to place them. If for any reason you don't have a note or links, so on and so forth, a good rule of thumb is to look at the name in these notes right here. And what you can do is just Google whatever it is you need. For example, Flux2 Dev FP8 Mixed. You'll see a quick little Google search. You can find the Hugging Face repository, and you can find any of the downloads you may need right there. I've already went through and installed all of the correct models. Just to give you a quick visual of what that would look like, you go to wherever you've installed ComfyUI, either in your custom location for portable or sometimes in your documents. You want to go to the main ComfyUI folder right here. You want to go down to models right here, and then again, place the corresponding model wherever you need it. You see this Mistral model goes in text encoders. So I will go to my models folder. I would find text encoders, and I've placed them right here. Once that is all in the correct folder, go ahead and just refresh your browser right here. And you can go to models and just click to load to make sure that you can find these popping up in Comfy. So now everything is ready to use. Quick little explanation of the flow. What you're seeing here is a templated workflow. Somebody already built this and shared it, so it's super easy to jump in and start using. But here's the thing, ComfyUI also lets you build completely custom workflows from scratch if you want. You're not locked into these templates. These are just good starting points. This is where you upload your AI models, the Flux 2 model, as well as our text encoder. The clip text encode, this is where your prompts go. The text encoder takes your words and converts them into a format that the AI model can actually understand. That's then going to pass on to this reference image. You can click to load in a reference image right here. And if you want multiple reference images, what you could do is hold down Control and select all of these purple nodes here and click Control B just to unbypass. Right now they are bypassed. Now you have two reference image options. So for example, you could load an image of a woman, an image of a beanie, just a product image. Say woman is wearing a small yellow beanie, and it'll generate based on the woman conditioning and the beanie conditioning. So this is useful for things like separating people, locations, and a prompt or a product, for example. If you only want one reference, just again, select and bypass. Down here in step 4, you have your image size, so you can choose your custom resolution just with these two nodes right there. From there, it'll take all of that information, pass onto the sampler. This is where the actual AI generation happens. The sampler is what progressively refines your image from random noise into the final result. Think of it like a Polaroid developing. It starts fuzzy and gradually becomes your image. And then finally convert that into pixels that you can preview right here. All right, so let's start generating. I want to show you 3 practical use cases for Comfy, starting with our Flux 2 image workflow. Let's go ahead and create an image for a luxury watch brand that you might see in a magazine. I found a reference image of a man that I want the generation to look like, a watch as a product reference, and a luxury bar as location. Because I want 3 references, but we're currently only set up for 2, I'm just going to Control click and drag to select these reference nodes. Then I'll click Control V to paste. And finally, I'll connect this conditioning node right here back into the conditioning chain just like this. For prompt, let's go ahead and keep it simple at first. We'll just say man in luxury bar displaying watch, and we'll hit run. And there we go. Everything worked correctly, but I think that we can improve this a lot with a better prompt. I like to use an LLM like Gemini for this. Usually I'll brainstorm a general idea of what I want, and then I'll ask it to make me a Flux 2 optimized prompt. It'll go in and fill in the details like adding shot on 35mm film. So let's paste that in and then run again. And there we go. As simple as that, we get some amazing detail and realism with Flux 2 and our optimized prompt. This could be a great first pass for a photo shoot, a storyboard reference, or something that you can show a client to get feedback on lighting and composition before you ever commit to expensive production. Now that you understand the general flow of how to use these models, let's take that understanding and adapt it for a completely different use case. Imagine you're a game developer or 3D artist and you have dozens of background props that need textures. You want these assets to have a little more character, something like wear and tear, unique details, but you don't want to spend hours hand painting every single asset. This is where understanding how AI actually generates images becomes super valuable. Once you know what's happening under the hood, you can bend these tools to solve real production problems. So let's talk about what's actually happening under the hood with Flux 2 when it generates an image. When you feed an image into the AI, like this basic suitcase texture that I have here, it doesn't just see a bunch of pixels. It converts that image into what's called latent space. Think of this as the AI's internal understanding of what the image represents, the shapes, the colors, the layout, all compressed into a format that the AI can work with. Now, normally when you're generating with this workflow, the AI is starting with just pure random noise, basically a blank slate. What if instead of starting from nothing, we start with our existing texture? We encode it into that latent space and then add a controlled amount of noise to then let the AI clean it up while following our prompt. Now, if that sounds confusing, you don't have to understand everything perfectly right now. Just follow along with what I'm doing to change around the workflow. And if you don't want to go in and do things step by step, there's also a download of this JSON, which you can just drag and drop where I have it all set up and ready for you. So first things first, I'm going to get rid of all of these additional references that we do not need, that we were bypassing anyway. So we're only going to have one reference in the end. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this section right here where we're setting the image size and we're creating an empty Flux 2 latent. We want to take the latent noise from our original image as a base. So as you see right here in the vein code, we already have that because we're feeding this into the Flux 2 guidance. So just to keep things simple, what you can do is just delete this entire section right here. We can go in and create an image resize node so that we can have control over the final resolution. This is 2K by 2K. Let's go 1024 by 1024. And we'll just take this and connect it to the chain. Now, the next thing we want to do is search for latent noise, and we want to use inject latent noise right here from ComfyUI Essentials nodes. This will give us a little bit of additional control over how much we're changing from the original image that we're feeding. Again, we don't want to just use this as a rough reference and allow it to change. We want to only sprinkle a little bit of AI detail over top of what we already have. So I'm going to go with a noise strength of something very low, like 0.2. Then I'm going to take the latent from the VE encode and plug it into here. And then we can take that final latent and we can plug that into our sampler right here. And that is the final setup. The last thing I will mention, right now we're only creating a color texture over top of here. If you want a bit of additional detail with your 3D model, we can also create a normal map. And we can do that just by searching normal map, and it's under image filters. So again, don't rely on this as something that's like fully physically accurate, but if this is just something in the background, this can add a lot more nice detail. And what we're going to do is add this into its own image preview right here. So just take the VE code where it's finally going and converting the latent to pixels, plug this into our normal map to convert it, and then we're going to create a second preview image node so that we can see both the color map and the normal map side by side. So take normal map, plug that in there, and there is our full final setup. I'm just going to group both of these, and I can rename them color. And that's about it. I prompted to add some stickers over the leather, things like saying flat texture sheet or leather surface. I took that generated color and normal map into Blender and set up a shader for the 3D model. Here you can see how the UV map is lining all up because we did use that low denoise, and the normal map did a great job at adding a bit of depth to the stickers into the leather so it doesn't look completely flat. The beauty of this is because you are running locally on your own hardware, you can iterate on the fly with your prompts or batch process or add on to this however you see fit. For example, I could completely change the style from realistic to toon shader just within a couple of minutes. I just have to alter the prompt for a more stylized toon look for the texture, swap those new textures back in, and then the rest is all in your 3D software, altering the shader for a more cell shading look and adding in a black outline around the model. That's the difference between using AI as a make me a picture tool versus actually understanding how to integrate it into your pipeline to solve some real problems. So last but not least, I do want to talk a little bit about video. I'm not going to go super in depth with this because I have already created a full guide as well as released the free JSON for this workflow on my personal YouTube channel if you want to go check that out. In summary, this is the WAN 2.2 Animate model, an excellent model for generating video. Essentially, you take your image reference and you load in a video reference. It'll detect the poses and facial movements from your video reference, and it'll then apply it to your image reference. So I'm going to take some of the images that we made earlier in Flux and go ahead and just run this through. And there, as you can see, if you load in a quality reference image and you use a dynamic model like WAN Animate, you can also create some really beautiful videos. This opens up some really practical use cases. You can storyboard camera movements before you shoot. You can prototype motion graphics concepts, previs sequences for client presentations, all without needing a full production setup. ComfyUI at the end of the day is a tool. It's meant to plug into what you're already doing so that you can use your existing expertise to get the most out of it. I'll show you one more little example here where I created an alternate version where he's sitting on a boat. And in the prompt here, I'm going to add in things like air whipping in the wind or waves crashing in the background. With WAN Animate, you can prompt in some of those environmental changes to really breathe life into the generation. Even in the background here, you can see how the light and the liquid in the bottles in the back are reacting to this boat now moving. Really cool little things like that. And you can see the level of quality that you're able to get running locally on an RTX 5090 at a pretty high resolution. Having that local horsepower means I can change camera movements, change more environmental details, all without having to worry about cloud credits or render queues. So I hope that gave you a good introduction to using ComfyUI, whether you're generating stills, modifying textures, creating cinematic videos. Having the performance to match your ideas is everything. If you want to learn more about NVIDIA Studio and see more tutorials and artist showcases, head to nvidia.com/studio with the link in the description, and also check out more on the NVIDIA Studio YouTube channel for more content like this.